Hey, it's love to be loved, and it's always love to be loved. And today, I'm doing a video on the Gen X Pyramid Explained Reboot Part 3. Because there's a few things I said in the last video that I didn't expand upon. I just said, oh, they're in the tier. Didn't do much about what they were. And to explain again why I'm using pyramid and not iceberg is because one, icebergs are usually videos on icebergs that are about conspiracy theories, mysteries, weird stuff, things that people believe that may or may not be true. But I'm talking about things that actually existed, at least according to my memory, and things that Google said were true. Anyways, the first thing on the pyramid tier, the first tier, is we have what they call the Terminator glasses, or the Boz glasses. The Boz was a Seahawks football player, as I'll show here again, as I did in the last video. And he was a really popular football player. Problem was, he got injured, so he didn't last very long. Plus, he was in a position that most people didn't know about. I can't remember what it was, but I'll put it up here. Anyways, but he was the personification of the 80s. He had the shaved head, the shaved side of the head, long in the back, buzz cut in the front, and those big old Terminator glasses. But I think that he wanted to call them the Boz glasses, or the Boz look, so to speak. And he really tried to capitalize on everything. I mean, he tried to really monetize his look, and the NFL kind of didn't like that. Anyways, yeah. So I called them the BFGs, the BF glasses, which is in reference to the BFG, the BF gun in Doom. And Doom, I love that game, Doom. Oh my gosh. Just the fact that you got to kill demons. It just felt good to kill demons, or, unalive demons. Yeah, and they said it really wasn't 3D, and it was a different technology, whatever. It was 3D to me, that's all that counted. And of course, it's a real popular game now. They revised it. They've done a horrible movie with it. Apparently, I haven't seen the movie. I heard it was bad. Then it was really popular. It still is now, but it was really popular, especially with that. I think there was a movie called Rad or something like that, where they featured BMX bikes. And I said in the video, and I kind of did a correction on the text. And last it said, oh, but I got a mongoose, which is really close to BMX. Well, it turns out that it was a used, I do remember it being a used mongoose, but it turns out that that's one of the top of the line BMX bikes. So I didn't realize what I had. But the first bike I ever had was a Huffy. That was the poor person's version of BMX. I forgot what the other brands were, but anyways, it's because it was cheap or whatever, but they're really tough. Apparently, they're the type of bikes you're supposed to be able to run into a brick wall. Like, why would you do that? And then get up and be able to ride the bike, the Huffy. So yeah, then on the second tier, now there still are arcades, and of course, the good old talk from people, the the good old days where it used to cost 25 cents. Not too many people know, and this is where you get uh, the name of the what was that, the TV company or whatever they're called, the TV studio called Nickelodeon. It's where you play games for a nickel or for a dime. Now, it turns out that they wanted to make some money, so you paid a fee. I forgot what the fee was, but you paid a fee, and almost all the games were a nickel, and some of the games, the more advanced games, at least back in the 80s, yeah, they cost a nickel or a dime. And those were great for people who own those things because, I don't know if that's where they got it from. I doubt it, but, were they nickel and dimed you to unalive? Anyways, yeah, so you would spend a lot more money because it was cheaper. So it was a lot easier to spend more money, and you thought less about how much money you were putting in the machines and how much it cost you to get in. Then there's also calling cards where you would load money. You would buy these cards at a 7-Eleven or some convenience store, or I think even at the supermarket. You would buy the cards. You would call the number. It would load. They're already preloaded or something. So you call that number first. So if you were ever stuck and you didn't have any change with you, you would use this calling card, or sometimes you even use it on your phone. But you mainly use it at a phone booth. People still know about those. It wasn't much of a big thing. Anyways, when they still had phone booths, you would call a number, and then they'll say, you have so much money left on the card. Well, I think they stopped using it because there was cheaper ways of doing it. Cell phones started to come out, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, there was that. You called the number first, then you called the number, and then it told you, you have so much money on your card, or you have so many minutes left there, whatever. Then there was when you bought vegetables, because nowadays you just buy it and as is, unless you buy it at certain markets, farmers markets or whatever, and still you can still get the tomatoes on a vine. But back in the day, my mom, they had to wash them, cut them, trim whatever was left on it, and cut off whatever they were going to use for the meal. Yeah, so the veggies had to be prepped. Milk and other dairy products was delivered to your house. You didn't go to the store and pick up a gallon. The dairy came and dropped off glass bottles. I think they were by the quart, and then they dropped it off. And then you would pay a bill. You would send, you mail off or whatever. So milk was still delivered in the 70s. Then you had on the third tier, you had to wait in line for everything. Nothing was bought online. Nothing was bought online. The closest thing to buying things online is you could do wire transfers. So that's technically what you would call online. But usually that was with businesses and stuff, or millionaires or people who are really rich. Yeah, so you waited in line for everything, concerts. There was no prepaid nothing. It was everyone got up early in the morning for concerts, new devices like they used to do. There was no prepaid nothing. There was no getting stuff online. Everything was in line. Now, to some people that wouldn't know, there was a game out there. It was the first popular 3D game called Battlezone, where you were a tank and you went around block objects and you went to blow up other tanks. And then you would have a layout of what was going on, the type of damage you had, how much fuel you had, blah blah blah, and how much ammo you had, and you had to hit. However, they made it to where you re-upped on your fuel, re-upped on your if they had fuel or whatever, on the and you got to re-up, you got to oh, what is that called? Oh yeah, upgrade your tank. I think, I'm not sure. Anyways, it was a really fun game because you played at the arcade and you had an actual wheel that they had it shaped so you felt like you're actually driving a tank. But before that, there was two other known games out there. One was called Spasm. Yeah. And all I have is images. I don't have, and since I am a boomer, I wasn't able to record any gameplay of those, and there was no GIFs I could find. I'm sure everyone online, but look at me, I got it here, or blah blah blah. Or the other one was called Maze War, which was kind of looked like a battle zone, except for you're a person, you're walking through a maze, and I guess you were shooting things, or I don't remember. I barely remember. I don't remember the Spasm, but I do remember the Maze War. Then the next thing that they came out with was Mach 3. Mach 3 was a jet fighter game, arcade game, where they had pre-recorded live action, like you would fly over deserts, fly over the different areas, like the Nevada desert. I don't think you're allowed to fly. I don't think they had any footage of actual air bases. But yeah, they had all these pre-recorded places of the Hoover Dam, and then the objects that you shot at and the planes you shot at were 3D images. So it was, they used laser disc technology, and they overlaid the 3D images over actual pre-recorded landscapes. So that was a really fun game. And then for computers, you had backup tapes. Yeah, instead of putting things on a thumb drives or whatever type of external or other types of ways of saving your data, it was on backup tapes. It was also on floppy disks. Now, why they call them floppy? Probably because they were floppy, but it was hard. It was in a hard casing, a square casing. The disc was inside of the hard, some type, I forgot what the material was. Anyways, it started off as 8-inch, 4 1/4, down to 3.5 inch, and it carried up to 100 kilobytes to 144 megabytes. That was considered a lot of storage back then, back in the 70s and 80s. Then next on the tier, we had Now you had what they call, and before the cell phone, they had the car phone. And from 1940s to 1960s, it was more like a radio, not the radio you tuned or whatever. Like the radio they use for like police and in war movies. They called on that type of phone, and then they advanced more in the 70s and 80s. They had the car phones, but usually those only belong to businessmen, government people, and really rich people. Yeah, if you had a car phone, yeah, that was the status. That was a status thing. That showed that you made it, or you worked for a really big company. Um, Now then, next on the bottom tier, you have the microwave. Now the microwaves, the first ones that came out, the microwave ovens, the first ones that came out were really huge, about the quarter of the size of an actual oven, and they were really big. Yeah, and all I had was a dial of the temperature in between 1 and 10 and push on. And the other button was to open, to open the door. And yeah, so that's how microwaves were made back then. Really huge, and then just 1 or 2 dials, and that was it. And then later they had the preset buttons, where it said popcorn, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it was just temperature 1 through 10, and then, oh yeah, and how long, that was the other dial, how long you wanted to do it, and then push the on button. That was it. It was just a simple way of doing, simple technology. And of course, back then, there was still the car lighters. Now, in order to have a car lighter, there had to be cigarettes. And cigarettes were a lot less dangerous, according to, I mean, let me explain that how unhealthy we were and how much that people didn't care. They had smoking allowed on flights in certain areas of the plane, even though the smoke was circulated throughout the entire plane. And you had smoking areas in restaurants, smoking or non-smoking. So yeah, I think you paid extra. And then you have the answer machine. Now we have the, what is it called again? Yeah, we have the built-in voicemail. Oh, yeah, there's my son. You can check out his channel. He's the comic guy. Anyways, so yeah, you have the voicemail. And you have the answer machines. It used to be little tiny tapes, and you would stick in there, and then you play it back, and you play it back. Now we have, everyone has automatic voicemail on the phone. And and sometimes you don't even check your voicemail if you saw who called. You just call them back whenever you feel like calling them back. So yeah, I had fun playing Doom. That was one of my favorite games. I didn't realize what I had when I had a Mongoose. It was, even though it was a used one, top of the line dirt bike. So yeah, there you go. There's the Generation X pyramid explained, or reboot, part 3. don't don't forget to hit that like button, ring that bell, and remember, it's loved to be loved. It's always loved to be loved. Be blessed, and goodbye.